Hi, my name's Graham Burridge and I'm the Sergeant in charge of the Yarrabah PCYC. I've been out there for around about 7 years and I love my job. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the Yarrabah country, those past and those present, the ones who are now helping the current youth achieve their goals and desires. Throughout the time that I've been at the club, I've seen pretty much all of the youth of Yarrabah come through the doors, participate in our activities. We've had lots of chats, discussions about life in general and perhaps the future. What this is, the presentation you're about to see, is not really a documentary about Yarrabah itself. It's a little bit of history, a little bit of culture as to where the country's come from, but it also is a chance for the youth to speak up, for them to express their desires as to where they would like to be. It's an opportunity for us to then engage with the youth of the community and try and provide them with the outlet that they need to achieve. It's an opportunity for them to tell us exactly what they would love to do. You speak, we listen.
In 1892, an Anglican mission was established on the site of modern-day Yarrabah, and Aboriginal people from across far north Queensland were forcibly relocated there. Across the generations, the standard of education has varied considerably, as have the employment conditions and opportunities that people have experienced. Many practices and policies have been developed by the Anglican Church, by the State of Queensland and by the Yarrabah Aboriginal Council to address the education and employment needs of Yarrabah. Today, more than ever before in Yarrabah's history, the young people have access to many opportunities. Cairns, a large regional centre, is just a 40-minute drive away and provides access to a high school, TAFE college and a university. Many young people embrace these opportunities that were denied their grandparents and generations before. But for others, there are still barriers to overcome.
A lot of people in Yarrabah, I believe, have a lot to say about the white people coming and taking the jobs. It's one reason to state, yeah, they're taking all our jobs, but, you know, those people actually went out and got the degrees, the TAFE qualifications, all those to fill that role, making that step towards paving their own future.
Well, I guess that's true, but if we've got to stop it, we've got to get our young people to go and do the same as those white people, so they can have those skills, because it's going to happen if our kids don't do anything about it.
But while they got all them white people there doing all them jobs, why can't they give us? When it's time to give them, they don't want to stand up for it.
Not really an economy here in Yarrabah where they can look for work. They have to, you either work for council or you don't, or the other small enterprises within the community. Otherwise you have to seek work outside the community, and I think that's where the gap is. No one really wants to work outside the community or work for the white man outside. They'd rather work for here.
But we have had young people that have moved away. Like like one guy, young Klein, he's moved away from over there, become an ambulance officer, got his own home, reared his family up. You know, it's not only my family who've done it, but a lot of other families out there.
Individual people got different, barriers. Some can be transportation out of the community. Some can be like, oh, like they're shamed. Then we get educated right from when they left school. Like we got the access to the bus. Like the bus from year 11 and 12 to travel to Gordonville. You get ab study that backs you right up.
What we find here, even though we're so close to a major centre, is that there is a very strong gravity that keeps a lot of the young people here. I think a lot of it are self-imposed and more of a confidence and comfort thing. But I know there are quite a number of people, including myself, who at certain points in time have made conscious decisions that, okay, if you want to better yourself, you really need to leave from here. And with family support, that tends to be a little bit easier.
Leon talks from experience. After leaving Yarrabah to attend boarding school, he completed a degree at the University of Queensland, a far cry from the educational opportunities offered to his great-grandmother, who was brought to Yarrabah in 1919. Great-grandmother Hazel had 3 employers before she turned 10. She worked with cows and children, but when she was offered a job in a hotel, she refused. Although the local protector threatened her with removal to Yarrabah, Hazel believed the opportunity to go to school at Yarrabah was far better than being a domestic. Many families at Yarrabah were similarly affected by the removal policies and low standards of education and expectation. Wen Schreiber knew how hard it was for her parents, so she took the challenge and left Yarrabah as a teenager.
When I reached the age of 16, 17, going on 17, I thought to myself, well, there must be something out there that I could, just waiting for me to conquer. I just wanted something better for myself. I found myself a job down in Brisbane. You know, it was just opportunity that I was looking for. I was able to learn what the world had to offer, and I slotted in quite easily, actually. You know, coming from a remote community, I found all that was, my eyes was just getting wider and wider like this, but it was a real challenge, but I'm glad I did it.
But making personal choices hasn't always been an option for the young people of Yarrabah. Generations of government and church control has left its legacy, and many of Yarrabah's residents recognise the need to reflect on the past in order to understand the present and the future.
To make their future one of triumphant progress.
In order for us to move forward as the younger generation, we have to take 2 steps back to look where the real underlying values are that our ancestors try to pass down to us, but along the lines of government policy and society, we've lost those true values.
And I encourage, you know, young people to go out and ask the older ones, say, look, tell me about how it was before. Tell me them stories that we need to know.
In terms of education and employment, there are many stories that contrast the opportunities of the past with those of today. Because up until the 1960s, the residents of Yarrabah simply had no control over their lives. 2 key pieces of state legislation influenced the history of Yarrabah: the Reformatory Act and the Protection Act. Under the Reformatory Act, all children born of an Aboriginal or half-caste mother were deemed to be neglected, as was the case with 5-year-old Harry Mossman. In 1900, Harry was charged as neglected, even though he was attending school and the constable found him very well clothed and clean. Harry's mother Topsy, employed as a domestic in a Mossman hotel, was desperate to have her son released and pleaded her case to the local protector. Despite her attempts, Harry was sentenced to 7 years at Yarrabah Reformatory School. Getting removed to Yarrabah was straightforward, but leaving was much more difficult. Growing up on a Yarrabah mission meant that Harry Mossman was also under the Protection Act. Under the Act, he could not leave Yarrabah or a place of employment without permission. Harry was employed on 12-month work agreements and paid a pocket money allowance with his wages deposited into the government savings bank. After years of working on a permit and with a wife and children to support, Harry Mossman was looking towards Cairns for opportunity.
My granddad, he had been coming out for work up at Mossman and Low Isles, and I guess he must have went back, you know, it's better outside than here. There was no future in Yarrabah, I suppose, that he'd seen what was going on outside, which was completely different to Yarrabah. I guess they wanted more for their children. My uncle, Mum's youngest brother, he ended up at Cairns High and became a plumber. So that was pretty good in them days. That would have been, what, in the late 50s, 60s, early 60s. If he would have been still in Yarrabah, he wouldn't have had that opportunity, would he? He would have, I guess, just been going out with a permit, working on the cane fields, doing labouring jobs and that.
At the time, the standard of education at Yarrabah was low. Under the provisional school system, qualified teachers were not required. Students received only 2 hours a day of instruction, and the emphasis was on discipline, obedience and routine, not literacy and numeracy.
I think my father only went to grade 3, and you know, he found it very, very hard while he was growing up because he couldn't even write his name, let alone read ABC.
This lack of education and training forced the people of Yarrabah into labouring or domestic roles.
The majority of our men went out to work seasonal, like working on the cane fields, and also going out west to work on cattle stations, sheep stations, and some of our women went out to work on the stations as well, but you know, it was mostly all domestic stuff.
Gwen's grandmother, Lottie Wallace, began her training as a domestic at the age of 6. By age 12, she was an excellent cook and a thoroughly trained domestic servant. Understanding her family experiences gave Gwen the determination to regain and use that choice to make decisions over her education and employment.
I've worked for over 30 years and I'm still working. You know, I went into retirement. I'm at the age of 65, going on 66, and I'm still working. And I'm trying to instill in the young ones at Yarrabah today that education is very important. Because if we can't read or write, you know, you can't achieve anything, and you can't expect other people to do it for you.
Many young people in Yarrabah also recognise the value of educational opportunities available to them and encourage others to also take them up.
They have to pave their own future, but you know, family has to also provide that support for them. They have to realise where they want to be, and there are services out there to help and to take advantage of, but it's up to the individual to take that jump, you know, into mainstream or wherever that takes you.
As individual, like Indigenous people, we gotta stop being mild and shame, you know. We gotta make our goal, you know, like we can make a goal in our community, in our family. We just stand up and get out, get support from our friends, and we gotta try and encourage others too, not just worry about ourselves. We gotta come up as a group and get out of the community, and you know, like community is not gonna run away from you, and you know the road back to front.
For the Yarrabah Aboriginal Council, engaging with the young people of Yarrabah is an important part of taking the community forward.
From a community perspective, Council has been supportive of creating a youth council. Its function is being defined as we speak, and there are quite a number of young aspiring leaders that we want to promote, we want to support, and we are giving an opportunity, and hopefully it will become a standard feature of Council for them to assist us.
For elders and those who still maintain their connection to Yarrabah but looked elsewhere for opportunity, there is a message for the youth.
So if the young people over Yarrabah want to do things, they've got to get up and move themselves, I guess. Don't depend on people all the time, handouts. You know, if you want to buy things like a car or something, you're not going to get it on welfare or on a little CDP job. You've got to go and work and make the big bucks, I suppose. So how do you think I got what I got today? It's because I worked hard for it. Bloody hard.